Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take all that source material you send us and really try to boil it down, find those high signal insights.
That's the goal.
And today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating, actually. It connects what you're watching on TV, the comedies, the ads. With all that volatility we track in the crypto markets,
Right.
we're looking at how crypto, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, even NFTs,
Yeah.
how its reflection in pop culture isn't just like throwaway entertainment.
No, not at all.
It's potentially a really crucial economic indicator, maybe even arguably the biggest driver of mass adoption out there.
But also, and this is key, a huge source of reputational risk. It cuts both ways.
Exactly. That's the core tension, isn't it?
It really is. It's central to the whole Web3 ecosystem, I think. So for you listening today, our mission, let's say, is to unpack this stack of sources, get beyond just the funny stories. We need to understand how exactly a joke in, say, South Park or one of those massive Super Bowl ads actually shifts how the public feels, how it shapes what regulators might do, and ultimately how it affects investors.
Because it does affect investors.
Oh, absolutely. People often dismiss this cultural angle, but it provides really essential data points. If you're trying to analyze market psychology, you can't ignore it.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. Because you called it a double-edged sword, and that feels right. On one hand, it's like free marketing, right? Puts the idea of crypto in front of millions who maybe wouldn't normally think about it.
Millions, yeah. People who aren't already in the weeds with this stuff.
But then that same fame, it just invites skepticism, doesn't it? And ridicule and this intense scrutiny that can just tank credibility almost instantly.
Instantly is the word.
So we have to look at these moments, these cultural things, not as just background noise. They're fundamental signals, maybe telling us where we are in the whole market cycle.
That's exactly it. This deep dive is about defining that dual nature. Pop culture gives crypto much-needed visibility, sure, but that very visibility throws the whole industry into the court of public opinion.
And that's a tough court.
It is. Reputation there is often way more fragile than the tech itself. So understanding these fast-moving sentiment signals, it's non-negotiable. If you're operating in this space, if you want to be genuinely well-informed, you need to grasp this.
Right. And when we're looking for a sign, that a topic has really, truly broken through into the mainstream, satire is often the best place to look.
It's a great barometer.
And there's probably no judge of public sentiment more, brutal, timely, or accurate than South Park.
They don't pull punches?
No. That show is just famous for jumping on current events, sometimes like within days. And they've been using crypto as material for years now.
Yeah.
How they've tackled it over time, that evolution. It kind of tells us where public understanding is or isn't.
And tracing that approach chronologically is, I think, really revealing. Our sources point this out. In their early episodes mentioning crypto, they perfectly captured that initial public confusion. Bitcoin was shown as this magical, maybe futuristic currency everyone needed to survive, like economic Armageddon.
Right, suggesting it's inevitable, innovative.
But then in the very next scene, almost it's portrayed as a completely absurd Ponzi scheme, a pyramid of greater fools.
Okay, so both things at once.
Exactly. That early duality, it mirrored the genuine confusion and, frankly, the divided opinions the average person had about digital assets. This was maybe around, 2017 to 2019.
That's a really powerful observation. It shows the show isn't just making fun of Bitcoin or whatever. It's actually reflecting the real societal anxiety surrounding it. But, okay, more recently, the sources say their focus has shifted. It's gotten more granular.
Much more granular. They're now specifically targeting and mocking pretty sophisticated financial tools. Prediction markets, notably.
Prediction markets, like...
Yeah, they're even naming names, apparently. Platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket getting called out in South Park.
Wow, okay, that signals a huge shift, right? When a show like South Park, known for its really broad appeal, can actually satirize the complexity of prediction markets.
It means the crypto world is moving beyond just what is Bitcoin.
Right.
The ecosystem is maturing into, complicated financial engineering. The joke isn't about the basic asset anymore. It's about how ridiculous, or maybe how complex, the instruments built on top of the blockchain seem to the public.
And it's not just financial products either, is it? The sources also emphasize they're taking aim at U.S. regulators.
Yeah.
and politicians connected to crypto.
Precisely. And that shift matters too, because
Yeah.
it reflects this new layer of public awareness, maybe even public cynicism about the regulatory mess, the lack of clarity we see, especially in the U.S.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
So when the satire starts focusing on, say, bureaucratic incompetence or political games related to crypto, it grounds this abstract digital asset idea in, well, real-world political drama.
It stops being just a tech curiosity.
Exactly. It becomes a major and often really frustrating lobbying fight, a regulatory battleground.
So the main takeaway here for you listening isn't just, haha, crypto is funny. The real lesson is, if South Park or shows like it are mocking a specific aspect, whether it's prediction markets or how regulators are handling things, that topic is like 100% on people's radar.
Absolutely. It's entered the zeitgeist.
And whether the mockery is fair or totally over the top, it reflects, and sometimes it even amplifies, the confusion or skepticism that's already out there. If the average person watches that, chuckles, but walks away thinking, wow, prediction markets sound like crazy cartoon stuff, probably nonsense, that's a direct hit.
A negative hit to perceived legitimacy.
Yep, right. It impacts how seriously people take that part of the industry.
Now, to connect this powerful satire to the bigger picture, it's really important to contrast it with deliberate efforts by other big shows to actually try and normalize things, to educate the public on blockchain tech.
Oh, okay. The other side of the coin.
Yeah, the source material highlights this really interesting dichotomy. Think about The Simpsons and The Big Bang Theory.
Right. The Simpsons did that Frinkcoin episode. That was back in 2020. I remember reading that the writers actually, struggled with it. They needed the jokes, obviously, but they also felt they had to explain what this tech even was.
And they made a very conscious choice, a really interesting one, to bridge that gap. Remember who narrated the explainer part about blockchain basics?
Yeah, was it
Oh.
Jim Parsons when The Big Bang Theory? Sheldon Cooper.
Exactly. And that wasn't just stunt casting. It was a deliberate, high-signal move.
Yeah.
Parsons, because of Sheldon, is associated in the public mind with science, with intelligence, with complexity, but also somehow accessibility.
Yeah, people liked Sheldon, even if he was difficult.
Right. So
Yeah.
using him lent this instant credibility to the blockchain concept. It wasn't just Frank messing around. It had this veneer of serious science attached.
That's actually a brilliant psychological play. You take a figure people associate with, like super high-level theoretical physics, and you use him to subtly tell the audience, hey, this blockchain thing, it's not just a scam, it's real tech, worthy of serious attention.
It frames it differently.
It puts blockchain in the same mental box as, physics or engineering,
No.
which is completely different from the purely mocking approach South Park usually takes.
And it lines up with what the Big Bang Theory itself tried to do sometimes. That show often framed blockchain or crypto as, a legitimate scientific frontier, or maybe a complex math puzzle for their genius characters to solve.
Okay, so you have these two threads. Satire grabbing attention, maybe reflecting confusion, and then education trying to build genuine curiosity and understanding.
Exactly. And that dichotomy, satire creating awareness versus education driving belief, is crucial for understanding adoption cycles. Satire gets eyeballs fast, it goes viral. But it's the thoughtful education, maybe, that builds the long-term confidence needed for real investment.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's pivot. Let's talk about a moment where satire, celebrity, and market reality collided. Spectacularly. And immediately. We have to talk about Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live.
Yes. 2021, the Dogecoin incident.
It's a Dogecoin saga, yeah.
It's maybe the ultimate case study in sentiment volatility, how quickly things can turn and how directly it hits the market price.
Right. So Dogecoin had been on this just insane run-up, right? Mostly fueled by memes and Musk's own tweets.
Completely speculative, viral marketing, basically. And the price just kept climbing right up to the SNL show. Everyone was expecting this huge mainstream validation moment.
The market was pricing it in, thinking this would be the ultimate PR win. People were glued to their screens that night. I remember DOGE hit its peak around, 76 cents just before the show aired?
Yeah, the anticipation was huge.
But then came that one specific moment. The Weekend Update segment. Musk is playing this financial expert character.
Lloyd Ostertag.
Right. And Colin Jost keeps pressing him. What is Dogecoin? And finally, Musk, as Ostertag, kind of shrugs and says,
Yeah, it's a hustle.
it's a hustle. That one word. And the market just fell off the cliff.
The crash was instantaneous. Brutal. Why was hustle so damaging? Because it punctured the illusion The illusion of legitimacy that the whole Dogecoin community was desperately hoping for from that appearance.
It basically confirmed what all the skeptics were already saying.
Exactly, and it came from the mouth of its biggest, most famous promoter. It turned this expected celebration into this moment of just devastating cell phone broadcast live.
Wow.
The implication is massive. Public ridicule, especially from a huge global figure like Musk, someone who'd cultivated this direct link to the asset, it can tank a market instantly, severely.
It really proved, especially for meme coins, that sentiment is almost everything.
It's the primary driver, almost the only driver for some of them, and that sentiment is just completely vulnerable to a high-profile joke. Okay, so moving from that kind of organic satire and celebrity-driven chaos, let's look at planned paid marketing, big budget stuff.
Right. The deliberate campaigns.
This takes us into what you could call the age of market overconfidence, peak bull run sentiment. And nothing captures that 2021 peak quite like the wave of celebrity endorsements.
Yeah, every other ad seemed to have a celebrity shilling crypto.
And the source material rightly points to the most infamous one, the one that really became a symbol, Matt Damon. Fortune favors the brave. Crypto.com.
Ah, yes. The ad that launched 1,000 memes.
Yeah.
Probably a fair bit of criticism, too.
It was a masterclass in trying to manipulate market psychology, really. You had Damon walking through history, comparing crypto buyers to Roman emperors, climbers, astronauts.
Making it sound epic. Heroic, even.
Totally. Drawing this grand parallel between legendary risk takers of the past and, well, you clicking buy on an app today. It was huge in scale, very philosophical in tone.
And the timing was just perfect in a way. Or perfectly terrible, depending on how you look at it.
The timing is absolutely critical for the analysis. That ad launched right near the absolute peak of the cycle. Bitcoin hit its all-time high, around $69,000 right around then.
So it wasn't just an ad. It felt like an attempt to, mythologize buying crypto, make it feel like this defining act of bravery, not just a financial gamble.
Yeah, the cultural feeling was, we're going to the moon, history will remember us. It captured that peak euphoria.
But then came the crash in 2022. And the fallout from that ad.
That's the real analytical nugget, isn't it? The ad's meaning flipped instantly. It went from aspirational, heroic, to being this universally recognized symbol of just insane overconfidence, excessive hype.
It became the shorthand for that moment right before everything fell apart.
Exactly. It perfectly symbolized market irrationality and just how vulnerable it all was.
And this ties back to what we were saying about satire, right? The feedback loop.
Perfectly. Because South Park, naturally, later did a brilliant parody of the Matt Damon ad.
Of course they did.
Which just cemented its place in pop culture history as the icon of peak bubble behavior. The moment the market's own hubris just became totally unsustainable.
So the analysis for investors here is pretty stark.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting Matt Damon might accelerate adoption for a bit, gives it social proof.
Undeniably, it gets attention.
But if the market turns, those same super visible celebrities and ads, they just amplify the reputational damage massively. They turn what seemed like legitimate companies into symbols of financial recklessness for the whole sector.
Exponentially magnifies the risk. Yeah.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly for the ultimate mainstream media moment, the Super Bowl, the single biggest advertising event in the U.S., and the so-called Crypto Bowl of 2022.
Right. This was the moment the industry, collectively it felt like, decided to just go all in. Spend millions upon millions to reach the largest possible audience all at once.
Throwing everything at mass awareness.
And that Super Bowl, it showed us the instant, almost terrifying power of viral marketing when you have that kind of scale. And it gave us two incredible contrasting case studies.
Okay, let's break those down. The positive example first.
That would be the Coinbase QR code ad.
Oh man, that ad. It was so weirdly simple, wasn't it? Just a colorful QR code bouncing around the screen for a full minute. Like the old DVD screensaver.
Exactly. No celebrity, no big message, just the code and maybe a URL. The implicit instruction was just, scan this. Curiosity marketing.
And people did, in droves.
The outcome was just overwhelming. Instant proof of concept for viral success at scale. Our sources say the volume of scans, the traffic, it actually crashed the Coinbase app. Temporarily, but still.
Millions of people trying to engage, download the app, sign up, all at the exact same time.
It showed that media exposure, if it's clever, and it tapped into that basic human curiosity, what is this mystery code? It can just bypass all the usual marketing steps. It can onboard millions of totally new users instantly.
Instant adoption, huge scale. Okay. But then, in that same Super Bowl, we got the counterpoint, the ad that now lives in infamy.
The catastrophe. FTX. Larry David.
Hmm. The irony is just, it's almost too much.
It's profound and painful for the industry. So the ad features Larry David, right? Mr. Skepticism himself.
Yeah, his whole persona is built on doubting everything new.
And the ad shows him dismissing huge historical inventions, the wheel, the fork, coffee, the light bulb. He's saying, nah, I don't think so to all of them.
Setting up the punchline.
Which is naturally him dismissing FTX. The message being, Larry is always wrong about the next big thing, so don't you be like Larry. Don't miss out on this crypto revolution with FTX.
It was a massive, very expensive ad push trying to convey stability, security, we're the future of finance.
Inevitability, that was the vibe.
And then, just a few months later,
oof, the entire company just implodes spectacularly amidst allegations, now confirmations of massive fraud, mismanagement, just total corporate failure.
So that multi-million-dollar ad designed to build trust and legitimacy
Instantly became this searing, permanent symbol of just how quickly credibility can vanish in this space. Worse, it became a symbol of corporate failure, even potential criminality being peddled during the biggest TV event of the year.
That association, big, expensive, celebrity-filled ad, followed by catastrophic collapse and fraud. That's maybe the hardest reputational hit the entire crypto space is taking.
It really is. For the general public, that connection is incredibly damaging and hard to forget.
And this brings us to a really crucial point, the knock-on effects.
Yeah.
What do these high-profile failures, amplified by pop culture visibility, actually mean for regulation, for the future of adoption?
Right. This is where the cultural stuff has very material consequences. It ties directly into the risk of, let's call it, hardening regulatory narratives. Meaning, when you have these constant negative portrayals, especially when they're linked to something as huge and disastrous as FTX, it gives ammunition to regulators who are already skeptical, to politicians who want to crack down.
It feeds the crypto equals scam narrative.
Yeah. Exactly. It reinforces it in the public mind and in the minds of policymakers. They see the Larry David ad, they remember the collapse, and it confirms their bias that the whole industry is inherently dangerous, chaotic, maybe fraudulent.
So while the South Park satire might be more targeted, maybe even nuanced in its critique,
the FTX implosion, amplified by that Super Bowl visibility, just casts a long, dark shadow over the entire space. It makes the job of legitimate projects, of builders, that much harder for years to come. It raises the bar for trust significantly.
Okay. Let's really bring this home now for you listening, for the sophisticated learner. We've established pop culture exposure as this really powerful, really volatile force. But let's get practical. For investors, for traders, how does actually monitoring these things, a sitcom joke, a Super Bowl ad, translate into, like, actionable market intelligence? Why spend time analyzing a joke instead of just looking at the charts?
Because the joke or the ad is part of the chart, in a way. It translates directly into sentiment analysis, and sentiment often governs those big cyclical peaks and troughs in crypto.
Okay, explain that link more.
Think of mainstream depictions as narrative momentum indicators. When we generally see positive, normalizing portrayals like The Simpsons trying to explain blockchain as science, or maybe Big Bang Theory treating it as a puzzle,
Yeah.
that tends to fuel the longer-term adoption cycles, the network effect. It builds underlying belief. Conversely, when we see sudden, widespread mockery, especially mockery of celebrity hype, like the Damon ad fallout,
Right.
that almost always aligns perfectly with periods of intense speculative excess, market bubbles about to pop, or crashes that are already happening.
So pop culture acts like a kind of macro sentiment sensor. It signals when enthusiasm is maybe getting dangerously overheated, or maybe when genuine curiosity is finally breaking through the noise.
Precisely. It's a gauge of cultural temperature.
Yeah.
Sophisticated traders, investors, they really must integrate these media signals into their overall sentiment analysis toolkit.
It's another data stream.
It is. You need to recognize that a huge, ubiquitous ad campaign or a sudden detailed plotline in a major sitcom isn't just entertainment. It's a signal that the asset or the tech is reaching peak cultural awareness.
And peak awareness can mean peak price.
Historically, peak cultural ubiquity often coincides with cycle tops. Why? Because it often means the very last marginal buyer, the least informed person, has just been drawn in by the celebrity or the big ad. There's no one left to buy.
Interesting. Okay. And we can't ignore the really direct impact, sometimes instant impact, of memes and cultural jokes on price itself. We talked about Musk and SNL, but let's broaden that out. How does this meme-driven action work, and how does pop culture serve as this on-ramp for regular people?
Yeah, the meme factor is huge. The mix of pop culture visibility plus viral internet memes, It's probably the single most powerful psychological on-ramp for people who aren't already into crypto.
How so?
Well, think about it. If a joke on TV makes someone laugh about Bitcoin, or maybe it just confuses them a bit, they are significantly more likely to then go Google it, to research it, maybe even eventually buy a tiny amount.
Why? Just because they've heard of it.
It lowers the barrier. The cultural and psychological barrier to entry comes down because of the humor or just the familiarity. The joke normalizes the term, makes it feel like a recognizable concept, not some weird alien tech thing.
It makes the abstract feel a bit more concrete, more approachable through comedy or just recognition.
Exactly. And the source material gives us great examples beyond just Dogecoin. Think about the NFT craze.
Oh, yeah. Mid-2021 was wild.
Remember the South Park NFT episode? Post-COVID,
Yeah.
where they brilliantly portrayed NFTs as this kind of contagious disease spreading through pure FOMO.
Yeah. People were getting infected with NFT ownership.
That episode perfectly captured two things at once. One, the absolute peak of the hype cycle. NFTs were just everywhere, inescapable. And two, the massive public confusion. Nobody really understood what they were buying, just that they had to buy it.
They weren't just making fun of, like, the bad art. They were hitting the psychology.
Yeah.
The FOMO, the weirdness of digital ownership.
Exactly. They reflected that widespread feeling that NFTs were confusing, probably speculative, definitely a bit ridiculous. But, and this is crucial, even that ridicule, it put the term NFT in front of millions who maybe hadn't heard it before.
Right. Prompted the Google search.
Yeah. That confusion, combined with the viral cultural moment, it's often a messy but necessary first step for mass adoption. Even if it starts with jokes and skepticism, that shared cultural reference point, it's a data point in itself.
Okay, this is getting really practical now. So if we're traders, analysts, and we want to move beyond just reacting emotionally to these things, oh, South Park made fun of us, or wow, Matt Damon, what specific measurable metrics should we actually be tracking when these pop culture moments happen? The sources give us a toolkit, right?
Yes, they do. And this is where the deep dive offers really high signal actionable stuff. We have to start with the market itself, direct analysis.
Okay, like what?
First, obviously, track high frequency price reactions. Look at Bitcoin, sure, but especially look at the high beta, sentiment-driven stuff, Dogecoin, other meme tokens. You track price movement second by second, minute by minute, right around these big cultural events.
Like during the SNL broadcast itself.
Exactly. Or in the hours and days after the Matt Damon ad blitz started, or during the Super Bowl. What you're looking for is timing. Did the price move before the event, suggesting insiders knew or people were anticipating? Did it move during the event, confirming the sentiment hit in real time? Or did it move after, suggesting a slower public reaction?
Got it. Price action forensics. What else? Beyond price.
We absolutely have to track public interest velocity, and for that, Google Trends is your best friend.
Search volume.
Search volume. Spikes in Google searches for Bitcoin, Dogecoin, NFT, whatever the term is, right after a big TV reference. That's pure gold. Quantitative data.
Why?
Because a spike shows the media exposure actually worked. It converted passive viewers into active searchers, people curious enough to type it in. That's a leading indicator of potential future adoption. Curiosity today might be investment tomorrow.
And you can compare spikes, right? Like, did the Coinbase QR code generate more searches than the FTX ad?
Precisely. Map the Google trend velocity directly to the cultural event. Quantify the impact.
Okay, so we have price reaction, search interest.
Yeah.
What about actual tangible action, people actually entering the market?
That's the next layer, on-chain data. You need to connect that external curiosity to real participation.
Like new wallets being created.
Exactly. Monitoring surges in new wallet creation or even transaction volume during these specific media-driven hype cycles that shows the conversion rate. Did the Coinbase Super Bowl ad actually lead to millions of new wallets being used? On-chain activity can confirm or deny that.
So you track unique active addresses, maybe the 24, 48, 72 hours after a big cultural moment?
You got it. A proper deep dive has to match the cultural data with the blockchain data. Otherwise, it's just speculation.
Right. Okay, and then the sources mentioned even more advanced stuff, moving beyond just volume and price to, like, the mood.
Yeah, this is getting into more sophisticated sentiment analysis, using sentiment analysis tools and charts.
How does that work?
You need to compare the overall mood of the online conversation, especially on fast platforms like Twitter or X, before versus after a big parody or a huge ad campaign.
So did sentiment on crypto Twitter flip from, like, euphoric to suddenly skeptical or angry right after that South Park episode aired?
Exactly. Tracking that swing gives you a vital insight into the market's emotional state. High-frequency traders, quants, they try to model this stuff. And for really volatile assets, you might even look at correlation heat maps.
Okay, what's that?
Mapping specific meme token price pumps directly to, say, a particular celebrity's tweet or a specific media event. It helps identify just how sensitive certain assets are to these non-fundamental, purely cultural inputs.
So you're measuring the elasticity of cultural influence on price.
That's a great way to put it. It moves sentiment analysis from just a gut feeling to something you can actually track and measure, hopefully giving you an edge.
Wow. Okay. So this really shows that the cultural conversation, the memes, the ads, it is hard data if you know how to look at it.
It absolutely can be.
You're using the timing and nature of a cultural event to actually help calibrate your risk assessment, especially for those more volatile assets.
That's the sophisticated approach, leveraging cultural insight to inform a more quantitative or at least risk-aware strategy. Hashtag takeaways and conclusion. So if we boil all this down, synthesize what we've covered, the main conclusion, I think, stands firm. Pop culture references, the jokes, the ads, the celebrity tweets, they are not just random noise happening alongside market moves.
They're connected.
They are structural signals. Very often, they either precede genuine waves of adoption, getting new people interested, or, crucially, they signal a peak, a top in speculative excess.
Right before the fall.
Often, yes. So every sophisticated investor, every trader, really should be treating these moments as powerful sentiment indicators, as inputs into their analysis, maybe even predictive models.
But, and this is key as indicators, right? Not as direct trading strategy.
Oh, absolutely not. You don't just blindly buy Dogecoin because Elon Musk is going on SNL. That proved to be a terrible strategy.
Right. You use the fact that he's going on SNL or that Matt Damon is everywhere to calibrate your thinking, to assess the overall market mood, your risk exposure, anticipate potential volatility.
Precisely. When the fortune favors the brave ad is saturating every channel, that's not a signal to FOMO in. It's a signal the market is probably dangerously comfortable, maybe complacent, definitely overconfident.
And when South Park starts making detailed jokes about prediction markets or regulatory capture,
It means those complex issues, financial complexity, regulatory risk, are no longer niche concerns. They're widely recognized now, part of the mainstream conversation. That signals a certain market maturity, but also highlights key risks.
okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Here's a final thought, something provocative maybe for you listening to chew on after this deep dive. We've seen satire can sometimes lower the barrier, make things familiar.
Even if it's critical.
So do you think satire like South Park ultimately hurts Bitcoin's long-term chances by constantly hammering on the absurdity, the risk, the scams? Or does it secretly help adoption by just keeping Bitcoin constantly in the conversation, keeping it relevant, controversial, maybe even kind of fun in pop culture?
Is all press good press, even satire?
Yeah. Is any attention ultimately good attention for reaching the masses?
That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? The answer probably shapes the next cycle. Satire definitely burns, it highlights the flaws, but maybe, just maybe, by making the jargon, the concepts familiar to millions, maybe it does end up normalizing the whole thing in the long run.
Something to think about. Okay, if you enjoyed this breakdown, this deep dive into how pop culture really drives crypto sentiment, and if you want more of this kind of high-signal analytical content,
We hope you do.
then we'd love to hear from you. Do hit that like button, please subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely ring that notification bell. All that engagement, subscribing, commenting, liking it genuinely helps us out. It supports the channel, makes us more visible in the algorithm, and that lets us keep making more deep dives like this one, designed for you, the curious learner.
It really does make a difference.
So comment below. Let us know. Do you think South Park mocking Bitcoin ultimately helps it or hurts it? We'll read through your thoughts and feature some of the sharpest takes in our next deep dive. Thanks for listening.